Hey everybody, it's Jenny here. Happy Wednesday. I wanted to make sure that we had some sort of pre-recorded webinar distributed to you today since we didn't have a live one yesterday. So as many of you know, yesterday Jeff Hill was here in Indianapolis. Some of you were there, so you're very aware. But yesterday I had the opportunity, sort of a last minute thing came up where I could meet with him personally. So I didn't get a chance to pre-record the webinar yesterday, but I thought it's probably okay because what I'd really like to do is share with you the takeaways that I have from meeting with him, not only individually, but also listening to him speak last night. So if it's okay with you, in lieu of this week's webinar, I'd like to just share this video with you just as an update and a review of what he went over last night. And of course, next week we'll continue with our usual live webinars. So the first thing that I want to mention is during the sort of small group meeting that I was in on with him on, we talked a lot about developing leaders. So we talked a lot about what it takes to be a successful leader in this business. And there's a printer running right now, sorry. The three characteristics that he described that you need to be a successful leader in this business are the following. He said you need the capability, you need the willingness, and you need the environment. And so, you know, if you're building this business, obviously if you're watching this webinar, this video, you're interested in building the business or you wouldn't be watching this, right? So you need to ask yourself those three questions. Like, of those three characteristics, which of them am I lacking in and do I need to work on? Is it my capability? Do I need to learn more skills, more strengths, more skill sets and abilities? Or do I have the willingness, or am I too shy? Am I a little too nervous about pursuing this? Or do I have the most conducive environment for success? So those were the three things that he mentioned. That obviously he meets with a lot of top coaches in our business on a daily basis almost. He has conversations over the phone, he has meetings in person. So for me, it's really valuable to gain insight from someone like that because he's literally surrounded with all the top coaches in the business all the time. So capability, willingness, and environment. Here are some other things that he had to say. He said it's extremely important for a leader to always be recruiting coaches, which we know. It's also important for leaders to identify their story and use that story as part of their identity. In other words, be willing to get vulnerable and share your story. You might not think that you have a story, but you do. You just haven't dug deep enough, right? He said here that energy is in the new blood. In other words, when we have new coaches coming into our teams, that's where the energy is. The energy is in those new coaches. So making sure that we start them off right is super important. Okay, and last but not least, he talked about creating independence. There's a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I've been reading it. I'm actually halfway through it, and he referred to that book a lot last night. What he talked about was, the phases of leadership, being dependent as a kind of a newcomer leader, and then working your way to a level of independence. But he said most people kind of look at those two as being the only two options and the only two places to grow, from dependence to independence. But really there's a third level called interdependence. So to me that was really fascinating. If you search the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People model on Google, you'll see the actual diagram of what it looks like. But he talked about that, and it makes total sense. Like, as we're learning the business, we're like young children. We want to learn the ins and outs. We want to learn the basics. And as we get more comfortable, we create that independence and then are able to lead others as well. So let's see. What else did he talk about? I have some notes here. He said, this is something that I think might speak to some of you as well. He talked a lot about the top leaders that he meets with. And I don't know about you, but I actually had picked up on this just from listening to National Wake Up Calls. And one of the things that he says on the National Wake Up Call, each week when they introduce the speaker for that week, they talk about that person's statistics, like what they're earning in the business, what their rank is, etc. And I don't know about you, but more often than not, the speakers on the National Wake Up Call are Success Club 5 All-Stars or Success Club 5 Legends. Very rarely do you hear from someone who's a Success Club 10 All-Star or Legend. That doesn't mean that they're not successful. Obviously, they're really successful and they have a really successful business model. And so he kind of dove into that, and I loved hearing it because it's something that I've really picked up on in the last year. He said, so often he meets with people and they rave about how they have 20 or 30 or 40 Success Club points and how amazing it is that they're doing such great things and they have all these points. But yet they're not increasing rank and they're not moving their businesses forward, right? And so he said it's more important for you to just achieve Success Club 5. We call it 3 Lives Club on this team. He said it's more important to just have 5 points and then work with your coaches, right? Work with your coaches to help them achieve 5 points. Really, those of you guys who are leaders on this team, you know, when you look at the elite business model, when you're shooting for elite coach in this business, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for not just somebody who's successful on their own, but somebody who has team members who are also succeeding. The same thing goes for this. So I love that he had emphasis on that. He really emphasized. I was in a meeting with Aaron Young, Erica Buzzard, 2 other people. So we were all 6-star diamond or above. And he told us we had to stop focusing on so many Success Club points, and we had to instead focus on making sure that we are helping our team achieve 3 Lives Club. So if this speaks to you, which I hope it does, if you're an up-and-coming leader and you're looking to star diamond ranks for 2015, I hope that really sinks in, because for you it's more important for you to check your 5 points off and then keep moving on to help your team. So I loved that. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so for the actual event last night, he did I thought, a really great job. He's a great guy, by the way. If you don't follow him on Facebook, I recommend it. Jeff Hill, he's the VP. He showed a video last night, and it was a video of a probably 75 or 80-year-old potato farmer from Idaho. And the video is of him. It's kind of a boring video, but he showed this potato farmer talking, sort of narrating to the cameraman about what it takes to plant a successful crop for potatoes. And so what Jeff had us do is he had us watch that video and listen for things that the potato farmer said that we could, create an analogy to with our business. So here are some things that I wrote down that the potato farmer said that I think we can equate to our business. And obviously we dove into this deeper at the event, but the first thing he said, these are literally quotes from the potato farmer. He said, he was talking about sowing the field, sowing the seeds, fertilizing the soil with different things to make it rich, laying the foundation. Literally, his words were giving it every chance to succeed, which I loved. He also said, literally, these are quotes, people are willing to pay for a premium potato. And I thought that was cool, because I think sometimes we get so hung up in the cost of Shakeology that we kind of create our own obstacles in our own minds based on the price. And he had a great thing to say, which is, we don't skimp on anything that we use to fertilize or pollinate the potatoes. We use all the top quality ingredients because people will pay for a premium potato. So I thought that was really cool. He also says it takes on average 2 to 4 years of preparing the ground. 2 to 4 years of preparing the ground. In other words, 2 to 4 years of preparing your foundation in this business. He also talked about not relying on luck. In other words, Mother Nature happens. You can't rely on luck. You can only rely on your own hard work. He also says that potato farmers make the sacrifices necessary. They make the sacrifices necessary. And sometimes that means working 18-hour days. And sometimes it means kind of being a little bit more bored, right? We all work in seasons. So let's see. Yes, he also said, quote, we succeed only so far as we develop. And he said this life builds character. And that was something that Jeff ended with last night, how being a Beachbody coach and furthering your personal growth and your relationships builds character. So I thought that was a really cool analogy that he used. That was sort of the premise of his overall talk last night. Of course, he talked a lot about consistency in the business. He talked a lot about making sure that your activities meet your goals, which I think is also really important. So many times we have these big goals. We want to make Beachbody our full-time thing, or we want to earn a certain amount of money to pay for our Shakeology, but really our activities aren't matching the breadth of our goals. So I think that was a great question he had us ask ourselves, which was, do your activities meet your goals? And then also, are you willing to pay the price? Aaron Young gave a testimonial last night. We had a few coaches that gave testimonials. And, one of the things that we heard over and over again was that you have to be willing to make sacrifices. You have to be willing to maybe get up a little bit earlier to get your workout in. You have to be willing to do things that you're not so ready to do, or you don't really want to do, but you have to do them now so that you can reap the harvest later. So let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, he did mention this too, and it's funny because I had read this in a book that I'm reading as well. So it's the second time I had heard it this week. So obviously maybe I meant to share that with you. He said that there's this, famous story of this man sitting on a park bench close to this huge castle in Europe, and this reporter walks over to the man that's sitting on the park bench and says, "Sir, do you know of any great names or famous people who were born here?" And the man on the park bench replies, "No, just babies." And I think that's a great story because what his point is that great people aren't born; they're developed. And I love that. I love that because certainly I have been developed into my leadership role. It's something that I've worked on, and I think that if we're really interested, if we're really invested in this business, then it's something we have to work toward, right? Great leaders are developed; they're not born. So I think that that's an important discrepancy to make. Okay, last but not least, yes, I have two more things that I wanted to cover. So the last two things that he kind of closed with last night was another question, which I'd like for those of you, especially those of you diamonds on this team or close to diamonds, I want you to ask yourself this. The question he asked was, am I advancing or am I advancing people? So let me ask that again. Am I advancing or am I advancing people? Okay, so I want you to really ask yourself that. I would love for you guys to either comment below this or send me a private message and let me know your answer to that question. Because in the last few weeks, I've been getting a lot of messages from you guys, a lot of people craving this business opportunity, a lot of people really wanting to make this work. Okay, so you know if I'm talking to you because we've had a conversation. And so my question for you is, am I advancing or am I advancing people? Okay, certainly we always have to be advancing ourselves. We always have to be advancing ourselves in our personal growth. But a true leader, the true definition of a leader, is someone who advances others. I've mentioned this before. I got to a point in my business where I sat at 1-star diamond for almost a year. And I couldn't figure out, I kept racking my brain as to why things weren't progressing for me. And literally to a point where I'm such a competitive person that I would talk to my husband about, why are others advancing and I'm not advancing? And I finally got sick of myself saying that. So that was my turning point. That was my light bulb moment. And my official light bulb moment came in the form of these words. I told my husband, I said, I realized today that I cannot build us beyond 1-star diamond. I can build myself to diamond, I can build you to diamond, but I cannot build ourselves past that. I'm going to have to become a better leader. I'm going to have to take another step outside my comfort zone. I'm going to have to create buy-in from other leaders, right? So that was my sort of moment, but I think that moment connects really well to that sentence, to that question. Am I advancing or am I advancing people? And so that was my aha moment was, over a year ago, was literally realizing I'm done advancing. I can't advance myself anymore until I advance others. So that might speak true to some of you guys. I know there are some things in this video you're going to not relate with, but there might be, I'm hoping, one nugget out of this that you can take with you. For some of you, it might be that. It might be that. Okay, last but not least, I love this, and I actually used this in my mastermind group today when we were talking about things. Jeff mentioned that, this is something he always remembers, and that is that when there is credit to give, it is given away by a good leader. So a good leader, when there's credit to give, they give it away. They let everybody else take the credit for the hard work happening. And when challenges come up, they look in the mirror. So when challenges arise, they don't blame everybody else like they give everybody the credit, but they don't give them the blame. They take the blame. Okay? So I realize this entire video is very centered around the idea of leadership, but I hope it's something that you take with you. You pursued this opportunity because there's something different about you, right? There's something different about you, and you pressed play on this video because you have at least an inclination that this business might be for you. It might be for you to pursue to the next level. And if it's there for you to pursue to the next level, it's important that we ask these types of questions around leadership. So I hope you got something good and valuable, even if it was just one small nugget from this. I hope that it serves as a great recorded webinar for this week. I certainly had a great time hanging out with Jeff yesterday. He has lots of valuable insight, for sure. He's a guy that I truly value in the business. So Hopefully something there speaks to you. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to reach out or comment on the post. I'm happy to answer. But if you have questions about what's happening with our team, all the events we have going on, just check out our weekly announcements. I know I didn't cover any of that here, but that's okay. It's all covered on the website. So next week, we will resume the live webinars. Thanks so much for your patience this week. Hopefully this speaks to you, and I will see you soon. Thanks, guys.